Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Tanks Blitz. We're here going to be doing a review of the T26E4, the Super Pershing. Got it out of a crate, wouldn't you know it. Yeah, so the Super Pershing, Tier 8 American medium tank. Not too shabby. It's a pretty interesting tank. If we look, 51% protection, 50% firepower, 68% shot effectiveness, and 33% maneuverability. 1400 HP, not too bad. If we look at the Chieftain T95, that's got 1590 because it's a heavy. Okay, let's get a medium tank up like Type 95, which has got 1380. This thing, which has got 1380 again with the improved HP. CDC 1450. The FCM 1500. Yeah. It's not got the most amount of HP, but then again, not the least amount of HP either. It's not particularly too bad. 177 frontal hull, 76 side, 50 rear, 101 frontal turret, 76 side, 76 rear, but you've got to remember it's got this spaced armour here, which means that nothing will really be able to penetrate your tank, from the front at least, because this armour counts as spaced armour and also counts as extra armour. So it means that whilst you do only have whilst you do have 177 at the front, you also have the extra armour, which it doesn't show on the actual armour thickness, which means that A, this is very good against heat and HE going towards the front of your tank, but also means that it is slightly more effective against regular armour piercing as well, which means that the front of this tank is a bit of a monster to take on. It's a bit like having the front of a T34 strapped to the entire front of your tank. So, yeah, pretty effective. When you're coming up against one of these frontally, anyone who has played the game for a while, or knows about the game, will know that there are a couple of good ways of taking out this thing from the front. First of all, bit of a tricky shot, but if it's the only thing available to you, this machine gunner's port here, this is a cutout in that extra frontal armour, which means that you can put a shot through there and it will penetrate through, but again, bit of a difficult target to hit, especially from far away. Alternatively, the second way, which is slightly more easier, not the most easiest, but the second way of trying to get through the front is by going for these cheeks here. These bits at the side of the turret, they are not covered by this extra armour, as you can see, which means that those will be easier to penetrate through. Again, not the most easiest, but certainly easier than the machine gunner's hatch. Although, by far the easiest way of penetrating the front of this tank is by going for this big old area at the top of the tank. The two hatches here, obviously not covered by the extra armour. Weak points, you can easily place shots there and they will go through. Bit like going against the Chieftain. Biggest, well, the Chieftain T95 at least, the biggest armour hole is of course that top machine gun. Yeah, and of course, same goes with the T26E4. If you're coming up against it and you don't know exactly where to aim for these things, just look for these tubes, whatever the hell these two things are. Just look for these and aim to the left of it, because that's where a hatch is going to be. You hit that, it'll penetrate through. So that's the easiest way of dealing with it from the front, and of course the sides and rears very weak. So yeah, no problems with that, but really the front is where you want to be keeping your tank pointing at all times, because side of the turret, it's a bit of a long turret, going to be easy to penetrate through that. As for manoeuvrability, it weighs nearly 51 tons with only a 525 horsepower engine, which means that whilst it may get to 40 kilometers per hour, it won't get there for a while. Also, hull traverse is only 39.43 kilometers per hour, degrees per second, with a 20 degrees per second turret traverse. There are heavy tanks which traverse their turret quicker than this thing, I am fairly certain. Yeah, it's not the most manoeuvrable tank, it's a bit of a fat medium tank. It's like playing the heavy as a scout in TF2. You can give it a shotgun, that doesn't mean it's a scout. And yeah, this thing is just a bit sluggish, it doesn't have the best manoeuvrability, it's not the most agile, it definitely doesn't have the most potent acceleration, shall we say. It's just a bit sluggish, which is a bit of a problem. It's also a bit annoying, hence why it's only got 33% maneuverability. There is the engine itself. It's a Ford GAF V8 engine. 20% chance of foreign impact. Yeah, nothing too special. The suspension M26T80E1, 53 ton load limit. Bit to play around with there. As for the turrets, 275 meters view range, yeah, not too bad. Decent frontal hull, but decent frontal turret rather, but side and rear pretty lacking, as well as the turret traverses. As for the gun, however, it's a 90mm T15E1 gun, 9.35 rate of fire, rounds per minute, yep, not too bad. 205mm of average pen, that's the same as the long 88 pretty much. It's actually 2mm better, so yeah, definitely not too bad penetration wise there. 258 with APCR, which is again pretty good. 45 with HE. 225 average damage with AP, which is what we should all know from a 90mm. 190 with APCR, 270 with HE. Yeah, 0.32 dispersion, which is pretty good. That's decent. That's a decent aim time. Decent dispersion rather. Pretty accurate at long range. However, the aim time 4.6 seconds, a bit sluggish, means that snapshots are not going to be the most accurate, which is just a bit annoying. Yeah, but overall, not a particularly bad gun with decent pen, alright average damage, decent accuracy as well, just the aim time, the only problem there. Carries 54 rounds, which should be enough to get you through most of your battles, so you can mix them up as you want. As for provisions, you got your standard and improved fuel for 3 and 10% respectively to engine power and turret traverse. Can of cola and case of cola for 3 and 10% respectively to crew mastery. And then you've got your protective kit, 15% protection to crew from injuries, 10% speed and module repair, 20% fire protection, and 10% alloy and fuel tank durability, which you can mount as you want for the slight decrease in cash flow, especially if you lose the battle. As for consumables, you of course got your standard repair, first aid, fire. Then you got your engine power boost for 20% engine power for 15 seconds, and same with your adrenaline, 20% at low speed and 10% chance of damaging enemy vehicle modules. Then you've got your multi-purpose, which is those three rolled into one. What most people do is they mount that and then just go with one of them. You can of course mount them as you want. As for the equipment, I would say gun rammer, you don't necessarily need the extra pen, although 215 is nice. 205 is going to be sufficient, I would say, for anything that you might come across as a medium tank. Yeah, so definitely gun rammer for the extra reload speed. Then I've gone for improved modules for the extra trek and fuel tank and ammo rank durability. Then I've gone for coated optics. You're a medium tank slash heavy tank, you could play this as. So yeah, you're not going to be sitting around in a bush. I would say definitely not with that aim time anyway. So yeah, coated optics. Then the enhanced gun lane drive to help get that aim time down. Enhanced armour because, well, it's got alright armour for a medium tank, and then you add on that bolted armour, yeah, it's pretty strong. So yeah, enhanced armour. Then you could go with either one, improved control or engine accelerator, but I would say it's going to be engine accelerator is going to be more useful to you with the extra acceleration and whatnot. So yeah, I would say engine accelerator. Then refined gun, get it down from what, 0.36 or something to 0.32, which is a big difference. Makes it far more accurate, so I would say refined gun for that. Then I would say enhanced tracks to help get that suspension back up to working order, saving your repair kit, and then your choice of whatever the hell those two things are. So overall, not too bad. In terms of a tank, it's got a pretty strong frontal armour profile. Sides and rears, of course, not that good. It's certainly more in line with a heavy tank than a medium tank, and I suppose in certain lines you could play this as a heavy, but it just doesn't have the health of a heavy. Plus, it doesn't particularly have the armour profile of a heavy either. If you look at something like the King or the IS-6, those have got armour profiles of a heavy, whereas the T26 has just got pretty strong frontal armour. Yeah, also it doesn't have a particularly brawling gun, I suppose you could say. But overall, not a bad tank at all. Yeah, decent bolted on armour. The actual camo, I've got the legendary war paint, which was made from like scraps of German tanks which had been knocked out, which they just sort of bolted to the front of a Pershing and just went, hey, Super Pershing. Yeah, but that is the Super Pershing. I'll thank you all for watching and goodbye.